And we are back now in the Fox Box on the campus of St. Anselm College outside Manchester, New Hampshire, with the 5 leading Republican presidential candidates, and we resume our special candidates forum. Gentlemen, let's turn to national security. Governor Romney, you made a statement recently about foreign policy experience that raised some eyebrows and led John McCain, that mild-mannered man, to actually launch his own attack ad. Let's take a listen to what you actually said.
McCain opposes repeal of the death tax and voted against the Bush
State Department and pick out somebody who's been at the Pakistan desk. But if you want a leader and a person who's led in critical times and in critical ways, I think I fit the bill.
We had a little bit of a mix-up there, but you know what you said. You say that we elect a leader, not an expert. But in these very dangerous times, don't we need somebody who has lived these issues and knows all the key players?
You know, that's been an argument and a position that's been raised over the decades in this country, where senators have faced governors running for president, and senators have said, look, I've been there, I know this issue, we've been at one side, down the other, and governors have stood up and said, I've got the experience, the executive leadership experience that we need in critical times. And the American people, time after time, has said, I'm going to elect a governor as president, and they've said that because they recognize that it's very difficult to determine what the major issues are going to be during a president's 8 years. New things are going to pop up. The economy may get in trouble. There may be a tsunami. We may have a flare-up in some part of the world we hadn't anticipated. And what they're looking for is a president, not a general or an expert in a particular area, but instead a president who has judgment, wisdom, the ability to make difficult decisions, has the temperament to make those kind of decisions, the calm under fire, the willingness to reach out to other people, listen to ideas, exchange views, establish on a deliberative basis, if you have the time, the information that you need to make the right decision. So the people of America, time after time, have made the choice to select a leader, a person with executive leadership. And I think that's what the American public ought to do today. I think that instead of saying, oh, let's find who has the most expertise in a particular area that may be critical right now, let's instead determine who's the person that brings the qualities of leadership that are so essential in such a troubled time. And we have a lot of challenges. We're facing an economic challenge from China unlike anything we've ever known before, and India. We're facing schools that are failing, health care that is leaving 47 million people behind, taxes which are rising and rising out of control, energy costs. Here in New Hampshire, you got energy costs going up and up and up, illegal immigration. I was surprised today to hear that the Clintons endorsed Senator McCain's immigration plan. We've got problems, and it's time to have a president, in my view, and it's always time to have a president whose skill and expertise is in being an executive leader.
Senator McCain, you have a minute to rebut. You made the ad targeting Governor Romney's comments. What's he missing?
Well, first of all, could I comment? Maybe we haven't always gotten the best result from those, quote, governors, depending on which one you look at. Second of all, then Governor Reagan fought communism for 30 years. He traveled over 60 countries in the world. He had been a special envoy of presidents, so he knew national security policy. And it's very clear to most observers that you need to have the knowledge and the background, and particularly in this complex world and the complex challenges we face. I know Musharraf. Pakistan was off the radar until these things happened. I know how to deal with Pakistan. I've been to Waziristan. I know these issues, and I've been involved in them for the last 20 years. I haven't always agreed with the administration. I opposed sending the Marines to Beirut. It's important to know the players, know the issues, and have the knowledge and background in order to address them. And I will leave that to the judgment of the American people as to whether they think that that is important in these very, very challenging times.
Senator McCain, you said the other day that Governor Romney was looking at his shoes, quote unquote, during the Iraq War debate. What does that mean?
Well, it means that I never heard him criticize the Rumsfeld strategy. I did not hear him support the strategy that we are now employing. And in the previous debate, he said it was apparently working, when it was clear to those of us who know Iraq those who know the situation on the ground, that it was working. But look, we'll have these differences, and I hope that the American people will judge me on my merits and my experience, and that's what I'm running for president on.
Governor Romney, wanted to respond?
Absolutely. I was running a state at the time the war was being entered into, and so I was not commenting on Don Rumsfeld or upon the president's management of the war. I did go to Iraq and spent time there and said that I was encouraged by the success of creating a coalition government and by the vote that occurred, but I also indicated that it was apparent that there had been intelligence failures. And those intelligence failures did indeed lead to the fact that we were underprepared and underplanned. There were some who said there would be dancing in the streets when we came into Baghdad, and there was, but for a short period of time. And our intelligence badly failed us in terms of understanding just how severe the crisis would be. We were understaffed by a dramatic amount. And so I certainly was not looking at my shoes. I was running a state, and my responsibility was to do that well, and I think I did a pretty good job. My skill is in helping take on tough situations and be able to use judgment, decision-making skill, and the ability to draw on the wisdom of other people to make good decisions. And there have been great governors, Ronald Reagan being one of them, who brought an unusual set of skills to confront the greatest, if you will, foreign policy challenge we faced during the last century, and I'm at the last half of the last century. And I'm convinced that it does not take a United States senator to become the President of the United States. It takes instead a person, first and foremost, who has the skills of empathy, listening, temperament, judgment, wisdom, and decision-making capacity.
Governor Huckabee, you have criticized the Bush foreign policy for what you call its arrogant bunker mentality. You said that we should shut down Guantanamo and ban waterboarding. You didn't know about the national intelligence estimate on Iran more than 24 hours after it was front page news. You didn't know that martial law was lifted in Pakistan 2 weeks after.
I did know that.
After it was. Well, you said that it's a question as to whether or not it should be continued when, in fact, it had been lifted 10 days before. Can you honestly, let me ask the question, you get the minute to answer. Can you honestly say that you are ready to be commander-in-chief of this country?
Chris, I've been to 41 countries. I've been to Iraq, Afghanistan. I've been to Israel 9 times. I've been to Syria, to Lebanon. I've been to Egypt. I've been all over Europe. I've been to Asia. I've sat down with the heads of state, heads of multinational companies. Governors lead trade missions. Governors deal with cultural exchanges, both here and abroad. As far as executive experience, I've got more than anyone running for president in terms of Democrat or Republican in running a government. 10.5 years of being a governor, 3 years as being a lieutenant governor. Not only do I have the experience of doing it, but I have the experience of getting reelected several times in a state where people of my party aren't all that popular to start out with. So I must have done something right. I was selected by my peers to be the chairman of the National Governors Association. They must have thought something that I was doing was right, and Time magazine said that I governed my state in a way to be called one of the 5 best governors in the country. I think my leadership skills are clear. I led my state, and in every single area we improved: education, health care, transportation, natural resources, job growth, cut taxes. Those are the areas that made life better for the people of my state.
But if I may get back to my original question, commander-in-chief, and people see a pattern of either not knowing things or getting things wrong.
I don't think it's a pattern. I think it's a matter of when you make lots of speeches, there are going to be times when you'll have a verbal slip. But I don't have a slip of my judgment. I don't have a slip of my character. I don't have a slip of the truth. I know where I stand. I have moral clarity. I have convictions. Those convictions are solid, and they're the same that I've had for all my life, that America ought to be the strongest nation on earth, that we ought to have the kind of military that nobody on this planet wants to engage in a battle, knowing that if they do, they're going to face the most unbelievably irresistible military force that's ever been assembled. Knowing also that if we do engage that force, we will use everything in our power. There will be no light footprint. There will be heavy boots coming down on those who would challenge us. And ultimately, if we have to engage, and God help us that we hopefully don't, but if we do, we won't have politicians who would interfere with the battlefield command decisions that have to be made by the people who have blood on their boots and medals on their chests. And I'll be honest with you, of the 5 of us sitting at this table, we all bring certain skills, every one of us. Some are going to be a little different than others. I don't even think it's fair to say that a senator can't be a good president. We've had senators who were. I think governors make good presidents because they have, in essence, run a microcosm of the federal government in every aspect of those agencies. So they understand what the issues are. But it's ultimately the American people making the decision not about what we know, but about what kind of character do we have that would come to the table and make tough decisions.
Let me bring in Mayor Giuliani. John McCain says, talk about a backhanded compliment, that you did a great job of running New York after 9/11, but that it has very little.
Okay, thank you. John, that was very nice.
But it has very little to do with national security, and he also points out that you still have never visited Iraq. He's sitting right over there. Explain to him why